Welcome to In Search of More. My name is Hannah, and I am so grateful that you are joining me today. And today we are going to talk about learning for the love of learning. I believe that learning is for everyone, no matter your age. I believe that we should all be learning, and I believe that loving to learn and constantly pushing yourself to learn is one of the best things you can do for your mental, emotional, and physical health. I believe that everyone should be pushing their capacity and their knowledge in about two areas at a time for themselves, for your personal benefit and enjoyment, not for a job or for school. And I've come to this conclusion both through my own practical life experience and from research and from just watching the world in general. And the happiest people tend to be the people who are using their brains and learning and stretching and growing on a consistent basis. And I think that there's something to that. So why does learning even matter? For one, learning helps maintain brain plasticity. So brain plasticity is the ability for your brain to expand and grow and reshape and reform those connections between sections of your brain. And that's so important when it comes to holding on to and maintaining information and knowledge and being able to connect the dots. And that brain plasticity and that ability to learn is something that we can slowly lose over time. It helps keep your brain young. That's why, they always tell people as they age to do crossword puzzles and to do word-based puzzles, because that helps maintain that brain plasticity and helps keep those things sharp as we age into the age of Alzheimer's and dementia and just loss of memory that typically pops up. For that reason alone, I think it should be enough to try to be working on learning at all times. I also think that learning for the love of learning helps develop a sense of accomplishment. And that sense of accomplishment comes from completing something. That confidence you build when you push through difficult things and when you go through that whole cycle of thinking of an idea, figuring out if you're right or not, doing the research, trial and error, failing, pushing through, being wrong, and then coming out the other side with a sense of accomplishment, a sense of knowledge, and a result. And I think that cycle is so important in the way that we see ourselves, and just that sense of pride that really can affect your mental health and your mental outlook on life. In general, learning and pushing through discomfort helps you be able to handle discomfort and the throes of life in general, right? Life is not easy. It is not perfect. It is not fun all the time. There are a lot of moments that are really, really hard. And if you don't have a capacity to push through discomfort, it's going to be even harder, and it can lead to just stopping and for that mental depression and overwhelm. Now, side note, right? I'm going to give the disclaimer. Learning for the love of learning is not going to solve your anxiety and depression. If you have true mental health conditions, it's not going to fix everything. But I do think it can really help what it can help. And I think even with mental health conditions, I think skills and growing and doing things, that sense of accomplishment can be super helpful and give you some more positive outlook on life. The last thing that I think that goes into why learning matters from my own personal feedback is that it gives you a sense of confidence in yourself, right? As we grow as humans, and as we get older, we can start to lose our confidence and our ability to make decisions and our judgment as, life just happens. And I think learning and coming out the other side with skills and knowledge can bring back some of that sense of accomplishment and the confidence in yourself. And you can start to learn to trust yourself and to learn that you're capable of hard things and you're capable of growing in depth and nuance that you didn't know you were capable of. And I think that can just really change your outlook on who you are and life in general. So if you agree with my hypothesis, you're probably asking, how do I learn for the love of learning? Maybe growing up, school was really hard, or you didn't really do well in sports and different activities. And so the idea of learning something is kind of overwhelming. Now, first of all, I think learning can come in so many different ways, shapes, and forms. It can be skill-based, it can be thought-based, it can be just stretching your brain with reading and documentaries, and it can be physical-based, as in athletics and working out, and it can be so many things. There's so much that fits into the category of learning. And so I'm going to give you some of the things that I work on in my daily life. And one of those is hobbies. I was not very good at hobbies when I met Jake about 4 years ago, and he was very good at hobbies. And I pretty much told everybody that like my hobbies was like reading and maybe some rock climbing. And now I have a lot of hobbies that are, it's not a short list anymore. And that has massively changed my outlook on life. And instead of spending my nights kind of, in the endless YouTube, Instagram loop as I just kind of lay around doing nothing, I usually have a list of things to accomplish and that I want to do after each workday ends, and activities or just, working these skills into my life. And I love it. I love it so much. So some hobbies for me: canning, cooking, baking, sewing, soap making, candle making, ceramics classes. Like, I love it all. And that leads into another way that I think you can learn to learn for the love of learning: classes. Now, if you are not a DIY, teach thyself kind of person, 1000% get that. I think classes are so powerful and they are readily available. Now, we have a couple kinds of classes, right? You have virtual online learning, both in person and in sync, or, live online classes, and pre-recorded classes. There are so many websites where you can learn things, YouTube videos that can teach you things. But I like the structure of classes, as in, when I talk about classes, I mean that there's projects to do, there's teaching into a specific thing, and then time for you to follow through, and then maybe feedback at the end. Now, I don't think everything needs feedback. This isn't school. There's no grades, but I do think sometimes feedback can be really helpful. So for me, I take pottery classes, and I've been taking pottery classes consistently for over a year, and I love it so much. My skills have grown exponentially, and just there's a level of confidence and assurity that I have there. And I have fallen in love with being creative, which is something that I really had lost. I am coming back to a part of myself from childhood who wasn't afraid to try anything and just loved to create for the sake of creating. And as I grew, I got in my head thinking that I wasn't as talented and I wasn't as skilled as everybody else. And you know what? I know that. I never be as skilled and talented as everybody else, but I can always be more skilled than I was last year. I can always be more skilled than I was a couple months ago. And that's the only thing that really matters. Now into the ones that are a little bit easier and more approachable. So reading. And when I say reading, I primarily mean nonfiction. I know nonfiction is not everybody's cup of tea, but I do think nonfiction is a powerful tool that helps put you into different worldviews, perspectives, and just expand your mental knowledge. You learn lots of fun facts. I'm the queen of a fun fact. I love them. I love little tidbits of information, and I love linking that all together in my brain and like being able to spit all this random absorbed knowledge out. And so you can approach reading nonfiction in any way. Read a cookbook. There's a lot of pictures in those. Very straightforward. Reading books, memoirs, nonfiction, deeper books on a topic or a philosophy or something like that. Now you can also get into shorter form content. Substacks is a super powerful resource. I love Substacks. Obviously I have one, but that's where I consume a lot of short short to medium form written content. It is longer than Instagram posts, and it's usually more in depth. And I find that the writing is just beautiful and good, and I learn so much from Substacks and news articles. Now, I don't read a ton of news articles anymore. I'm going to like flat out confess that I try not to be super absorbed in the news ever since the pandemic, which was, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. But I found that being too absorbed in the news really messed with my head. And so I don't read as much news articles now, but that is a super great way to be constantly learning about life and the world at large. The other thing is for all my auditory learners out there, documentaries, podcasts, commentary channels on YouTube, general nonfiction-esque educational YouTube videos. These are easy ways to absorb information from somebody else in a lower stakes environment, right? If they can be fun, they can be relaxing. You can multitask while you do it in a way that you can't always do when you're reading. And I think that listening to experts and listening to people who love what they're doing and are passionate about other people understanding it is so powerful. So there are so many different things. There are rabbit holes you can go down that are so much fun. Now, figure out what you like, expand your horizons. I think there are tons of things to use. So obviously, if those are my recommended routes to learning things by hobbies, classes, reading, and video/audio, which sort of fall into the styles of learners, where do we even start? Like, where do you have access to these things? So there are often community options in your area. Look for Google art classes near me or cooking classes near me and see what pops up. Community colleges are a really good start. They often have a continuing or community education component, and they often have a